This episode of the Coarse podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hi, this is Chef Kiki Luya of Top Chef fame, and you are listening to Sean Rossler on Coarse Grind Podcast.
Gentlemen, welcome back. Episode number 179 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. It's a weird number. I don't know. 179. Isn't that weird? With you as always this evening, host, creator, Sean Rossler. How is everyone doing tonight? You know, sometimes on the show I like to throw curveballs. I've done it before, and I'm not talking about the subtle sort. You know, 170 plus episodes, almost 180. You gotta find a way to do what you've done, but do it different. Maybe do it better. And when you consider a podcast about food, I get it. You know, early on, we were all about that and that alone, right? Chef, artisan, journey, story, close. Okay, they were great, whatever. Then we started to touch on a little bit more social awareness in the wake of racial injustice. And I was glad to be there to use my positionality, if you will, my platform to help. And now an even greater cause that I knew of, but hadn't really explored until I saw a dear friend of mine, who just happens to be tonight's guest, using her powers for good, her privilege for ability, all in the name of food insecurity. You know, here I'm not going to go into a typical intro, as this guest has no formal training, no restaurants, no culinary pedigree, nada. She shares a background and foreground, I suppose, with me in e-learning and instructional design, and that's how we met. I always knew this individual was all about the causes, and it made me even more proud to call her friend, from her asking to not only run over her session with another dear friend, hey Trisha, in my hotel room since practice space was at a minimum, to asking me to keep my any neckbeards in check as she and Trisha talked about representation and training, which I did. I knew her work was important. But when I heard she had been organizing a community fridge in Portland, Oregon, all in the name of helping those in need, a cause I've lent this platform to before, well, I just had to give her a mic. Now listen, I'd go on, I don't have to, and honestly, I don't want to. She'll already never let me live down me actually saying kind words about her, so enough of this shit. Let's get right down to it, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, e-learning colleague, social activist, and fellow Letterkenny fan, the Judy Katz. What is going on, Katsy?
Thank you, Rossler. I totally forgot that, this is one of the first ways that we really, really bonded. I mean, we've known each other forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you volunteered to, be a heavy on a conference session a few years ago when we were doing kind of a social justice-oriented session. And, as experienced presenters, Trisha and I were, we normally don't really get nervous, but, we were talking about gender and racial equality and representation, and we were so nervous.
Yeah.
And you and some other friends volunteered to come, and if there were haters in the room, you would bounce them, and that was really, it helped us have a lot of confidence going in, because we're women on the internet. We know how I vote, right?
Yep.
So I'm so glad to talk about something on this topic, and I appreciate your support.
Yeah, of course, always. And it was I'll never forget laying there, and listening to you two, and in all fairness, and dropping the facade of breaking each other's collective gender neutral balls about things nonstop. Watching you and Trisha practice and hearing this content before anyone else did. It was powerful, and it's one of those things, like dealing with food insecurity, you hear this, and there's going to be bullshit. There's going to be a backlash against it from certain socio-political ideologies. I think that's fair to say. That's not me being one way or another. That's just being honest. You're going to get it, because why can't they, lace up their bootstraps and shit like that? Okay. but like, when I heard you doing the, it was WWWW, right? The session you did? Wonder Woman, something Wakanda,
Trisha came up with this amazing title, Wonder Woman, Wakanda, and Work.
That's it.
And we've done variations on it now, but it was about representing all kinds, people from all walks of life and all groups in, kind of media representation within our e-learning work. But what you asked me to talk about today is something that's totally separate from my work. It's kind of just something I do in my life. And it's just, that is, I don't know if I'm sorry, I'm not going anywhere with this.
You're totally going somewhere. I know where you're going. But, for me, the glue that brought it together was that it was this noble cause that, like, you're so often in our industry, in any industry for that matter, you see people going after the dollar. And it makes sense. It's survival. But then you meet inherently good human beings who aren't just all about that. They're about the other people. And that's where I was like, oh, shit. You know what? Katz and I could hang out. And hang out we did. That we can visit later, and again, we'll go right into the fridge and all that cool shit that you're doing out there. But folks new to the program, folks with terrible short-term memories like mine, we are going to go normal format for the most part. Starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we're going to talk about where the guest tonight has come from, what's brought her, in this case, to us, how food has played a role in her life. Mains, we're going to talk about where she's at now. She doesn't have a restaurant, nothing crazy like that. But what brought her to literally offering her own things to others in need without question? A beautiful question in and of itself. And finally, afters, she's going to get the same beat down with these questions as everyone else does. So I'm really interested to actually hear how she answers some of them. So without further ado, Katz. Judy Katz. Everyone's like, who's Katz? Is he talking to felines? No, that's not the case.
Real nervous has nothing to do with New York delis.
No, nothing like that. This is just when Judy and I get after each other at a conference, it resorts to last names like two siblings very quickly. So without further ado, Katz, tell me about where and what you grew up eating and what role food played in your life.
Okay, so I grew up in Central Texas, and grew up eating, for the most part, pretty basic food, pretty, casseroles and, a lot of great, pork chops and grilled foods and, things like that. But my parents both had these special things that they would do. Like, my mom had been a missionary in Indonesia, so she had some Indonesian curries and things that she would make every now and then.
All right.
Yeah, my dad was from the Middle East. He was from Israel. And so he did, Middle East feast every now and then, which was like really authentic, hummus and, what we called grape leaves. He also had a lot of North African influence from his travels. And so, falafel and shish kebabs, and he was a fantastic cook when he wanted to do a big fancy thing like that. So it was really varied, but then like on an everyday level, it was like I don't want to say mac and cheese, but like goulash. I was laughing because this is basically what my kids got tonight. I think it was. I feel like it was. I don't want to criticize, but it was definitely just like, food that working parents feed their families. There were chefs in my family, other than, like I said, those really special things, which were, for Central Texas, those things like getting Indonesian food and Middle Eastern food on a regular basis, that was like really far out. Yeah. Oh
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really unique. And I mean, I think, without giving away any numbers, you and I are of a similar chronology. And I mean, working parents did what they could. If y'all want to go back and listen to episode 20, 150 goddamn episodes ago, you'll hear the stories about my dad having off Monday nights and making scalloped potatoes out of a box and sausages on the grill. That's what we ate. That's even on the days off. It was like, look, they're not putting it into it, but they're giving what they can. And so, it's a great testament, and when we look at the cause that you're working towards, Katz, aren't we such a privileged few to be, maybe bitching at the corner of our mouths about it historically, when there's people present day, who are in need. So skipping a couple questions, it sounds like mom and dad were kind of tied for like doing cool shit with food. If you had to identify somebody who made you realize that food was really important, maybe beyond just sustenance in and of itself, who would that be? Like, if you had to name one person.
Okay. So I had a high school history and geography teacher who organized this field trip to Austin every year, where people would go to like a Japanese restaurant, and it was a full like sitting on the floor type of experience, and it was just something beyond anything that I had experienced. Like I said, culinarily, I was eating kind of far out for that time. And
yeah, I mean, you were eating well too. It's not, it's not like you were just getting shit out of a box. Again, hey, Dad, if you're listening, I'm not calling that shit out of a box, but you get it.
Yeah, but just having like a dining experience like that, it was really quite special.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that opened my eyes, more to like Far Eastern cooking. I mean, now I'm a big fan of sushi, Japanese food, and like pretty much all kinds of Asian food. I'm pretty sure I have not had any Asian food that I don't like yet. Nice. And so yeah, that was an early like high school experience that was really influential.
Nice. So, early high school, you go and do your thing, you go and live your life. And this is again, for folks who are fans of the show, all two of you, this is jumping the shark a little bit. We're kind of fast forwarding, but I think it's important because I want to give the most amount of time to the discussion of the cause at hand. When was it that you first encountered food insecurity, even if you didn't know its name? When it, like, if you had to put a bookmark where that happened, when did that happen? And then maybe a second part to the question, when did you realize, oh shit, this is food insecurity. This is pervasive. This is, going rampant in my community.
Right. So I come from incredible privilege, honestly, on a global scale. I could not say that I have really ever experienced food insecurity in my own life. And to be able to say that as a citizen of the world, you are already like way up in the top 1%, I think. Yeah. And so, but I think that, a lot of people are, certainly in my circles fit that same description. A lot of people in the U.S. fit that description. And so we don't realize that food insecurity is such a big problem on a global scale. And we don't even realize that it's such a big problem, even within the United States, within our own communities. But it is within almost every community in the United States. So the project that we're going to talk about, I don't know that I came to it through like a passion to do something about food insecurity, but I definitely came to it. I had definitely been looking for ways to use some of what I have to help others. And in that case, that was my property, my house. I say mine, but of course we are all on stolen native land. Yep. I am fortunate in many, many ways to have the property that I have. And in some ways it's too much. It's more than I need. And I had been looking for ways to use it, to help others. And so you mentioned, and you had done some podcasts last year, that were inspired by, the discussions of racism that were happening in the country, the police brutality protests. I live in Portland, Oregon, and those protests went on a lot longer in Portland than they did in most places. And I was part of that. I was part of that scene and that effort for a long time. And one thing that came out of that, that had been, of course it had been happening already, but one way that the protest scene one thing that was really boosted by the protest scene was the mutual aid scene.
Yeah. Yep.
There was so much mutual aid that started and was further developed because people were activating.
Yeah.
And it was not just about, it was not at all about smashing windows. It was about helping people. It was about making lives better for people. Yeah. And so being part of those communities, this was just like an opportunity that came along where I could help and use what I have to help.
I love it. I love it, every single bit of it. And we have an option at any given juncture to do something or to do nothing. I'm sure there's some adage about that. And so, here's me with podcasts. George Floyd happens. I'm gonna do something about that. I'm gonna do what I can from the seat, from this mic, because I'm in Bumble F, Pennsylvania. Clearly I'm not close to the stage itself, but I'm still gonna try to do something with that. So here's you identifying hey, this is a thing. Hey, how can I use my resources, which in and of itself is a selfless move. That honestly, it eludes most human beings. I can talk about former guests of the show. One comes to mind, Gary Vatican here in Bloomsburg at Seasons on Main. Even though, and we've done episodes and interviews afterwards, realizing oh man, the tax situation, he was in trouble. He was still putting slips out on the window for people in town to take a slip off his window of his restaurant, which wasn't doing as well as, maybe it could have been, and take it down to this pizza restaurant and get a slice of pizza if you're hungry. The mindset has got to be there, and clearly you've got it. And so I do want to ask how it transitioned into your present day, situation where you're at, but just for the sake of the audience who might not totally understand what food insecurity as a concept is. Katz, you'll do a better job of this than me by leaps and bounds, like you do everything. Wow. Did I just do... All right, fair enough. Shut up. Can you please define for everybody what food insecurity means?
I mean, it basically means that you do not, on a consistent basis, know where your next meal is coming from. And I'm going to say again that this, I'm not necessarily an expert in this topic. I think there are people in the world, of course, who would describe it in much better ways than me. But basically, it means not only that you might be hungry from time to time. You don't really know that you necessarily are going to have that next meal and where it's coming from. So it can be, there are people who depend on the jobs they have to be able to rely on their food meals. There are kids who get food at schools, but they may not be getting it at home on a regular basis. And so, this is something that in America, we think of ourselves as, the best country on earth. We're certainly the richest country on earth. But we have actually a very, very high rate of food insecurity in this company. Don't ask me for, or in this country, and don't ask me for numbers. Because the fact that we have all of this money, you have to think about how it's distributed. And the inequality in the United States is actually quite profound. It is, we watch, period dramas of pre-revolutionary France or something like that, and we see all these peasants in the street and whatever, and we think that that they have it so much worse than us, but really the wealth disparity in the United States is that or more right now.
Yeah, we only think it was worse than us. We only think that because we're watching it on a TV from our heated living room with a full stomach. What the hell? God.
Yeah,
God.
I mean, in terms of actual, disparity, that is very much alive and well in the United States.
Yeah.
And, I think that everybody knows, I hope that most people are not under the delusion that most people are able to make a living wage. And that, if you have a job, that means you have food. But beyond, even beyond that, excuse me, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No. I mean, beyond that, it's not just about the living wage. It's food.
Okay.
You shouldn't have to worry about that. Like for example, our local school district, And you know what? I've got plenty to say as a former teacher, as whatever, about school districts, but I'll say this, they got this right. Breakfast and lunch are free for all students. And they send dinners home with food insecurity.
Right.
Like, that's amazing to me.
And so this is actually what I was intending to finish that out with. Mm-hmm. We tend to assume. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I'll let you come back later.
No. I totally got you. I was jumping in. I laid on the landmine. It blew my guts out. You're good. Go.
We tend to assume that we have all of these programs and institutions in place so that food insecurity doesn't exist in this country. That is wrong. No. Your school system, Rosler, is exceptional. There are lots of food banks. Many of them do not get the kind of support that they need, and many of them aren't able to serve everybody they need because not everybody can show up there. Not everybody can show up there at the desired times, or at the times that they're going to be serving. Not everybody has transportation. All of this stuff. So this is one of the things that actually my neighbor brought up to me once, because not all of my neighbors are really on board with this project. We can talk about that if you like.
Sure. Oh, yeah, of course.
But I definitely got a lot of, there is a food bank right down the street, which there is. There is a food project, like a food pantry, 2 or 3 blocks from me. Okay. And twice a week, there is a line of cars. This has been the case since the beginning of the pandemic, and probably before, but I think the lines have gotten much longer, and they of course last for longer. So twice a week, there is a line of cars around, I would say probably 4 to 6 blocks in the neighborhood, just people waiting and, lining up and getting, what they need from the food pantry. But if you don't have a car, if you're not able to go for those hours at those times, yep. Then, and not everybody trusts institutions, then you are not getting your needs met. And how do I know? Because I have a fridge out in my yard and people come take food out of it. If their needs were being met, I don't think that's how anybody would choose to get their grocery shopping done.
Exactly. So oh my God, yeah.
I can tell that food insecurity exists because people show up at midnight to see what what is available in the pantry and fridge. So
yeah. They God, yeah. They show up, and here's just another layer to this, and this is something that I encountered, and I had it explained to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. COVID happens. And the schools shut down, and everyone thinks, oh, yay, we're shutting the schools down. That's great. For some of these children, this was their 2 squares out of 3 a day that they could get, because they sure as shit most likely weren't getting that 3rd square a day. And, all of a sudden, I came to a realization myself, in my ignorance and my privilege. I went, oh my God, I know my kids are cared for, but holy shit, this is a reality for them. And so it's an experience. Like you, Cats, I never experienced it. I never had to think about this. But now that I do, now that I have this mic and honestly this conscience, which I never did before, no, that's not true. I was okay. But this has definitely put me into contact with it. Why are they coming out at midnight to go into their fridge? They don't want people seeing them. They don't want people lined up around the block. Here in Bloomsburg, in Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere, when Agape has their food pickup on Tuesdays, maybe, and Saturdays, the line is down 3 blocks in this town.
Yeah.
So when do we wake up and when do we go, holy shit, we got a problem? We want to talk about basic human rights, basic human elements. These people don't know where their next meal is coming from. That's a problem.
And that's such, I mean, it should be, I think, powerful to say food insecurity is when you don't know where your next meal is coming from. But if you just sit and think about that for a second, think about how that would affect your life. Not just when you are presently hungry, but let's say you just had your lunch or whatever that was provided at whatever place. Maybe you go to school and it was at a school or something like that. How do you think it would affect the work that you're doing this afternoon to have to be thinking about, okay, well, I don't know, maybe can I go to a friend's house and get a snack after school, food is absolutely at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid or whatever. And
don't go instructional design, cats. God damn it.
You know what? If you don't know about Maslow, or if you don't care about Maslow, because actually there are some very, very good criticisms of Maslow as well.
Fair enough. Yes, I agree.
Everybody knows that you have to have food to function.
Exactly.
It's just something that we need, or our body will let us know very loudly that it's not performing at top, functionality on a very, very, very regular basis. I mean, it's something that annoys me. I find it to be a design flaw that I have to eat at least 3 times a day to stay functional. But if you're not, then your functioning drops really fast.
Like, I'm really trying to stay in the fun host mode, but like legitimately, and this is pulling back that fourth wall. I'm sitting here angry right now. I'm vibrating very aggressively because for me to think of children, and this is not the first time I've tossed this out there, but this is definitely maybe the most pointed, and this might be the most activated anyone's heard me, but this is how I am off air, folks. So get a taste.
That sounds normal.
Yeah, of course it does, because you get me off air. But like for me to even conceptualize this, like I have this weird like choking back tears of rage emotion, because I'm like, how can you, and I don't care who you are, what side of the aisle you sit on, how can you say things are okay, or how can you question someone's motives getting something given to them that they need when this is a documented thing that is occurring with more and as inflation continues, like there's no signs of stopping, motherfuckers. Like, get on the train. What do we even begin to do? And now the onus begins to fall to those of us who are the haves versus the have-nots. This is positionality at its finest. And I implore you, if you've never listened before, wholeheartedly listen to this. Listen to Cats. Listen to me telling you, the listener, pay attention to what you have, because it ain't universal. And it ain't earned. As much as people want to say, well, I worked hard for my... You got handed something along the way, bud. I don't care who you are, what you are, where you come from. You got something given to you in some way, whether that be privilege, and it most of the time is, something happened. So I want to kind of like inch forward out of this ragey muck pit that I'm in right now, because I am, man. I could literally flip a table.
I appreciate you going into the ragey muck pit, though, because I don't want to just talk about, like, statistics of food insecurity or whatever. I want to talk about, like, you took us there. What does it mean? What does that actually mean? Like,
I want anyone sitting here right now, no matter what color your hat is, but I bet I know what color it is, I want you to look at the kid who is suffering in algebra in the afternoon, looking at going home to an empty house, and that might be the best option, or a house that's volatile in nature, that doesn't have what they need, and worrying about that before their grade, and then calling them a derelict, and then calling them something or other. Like, God, check your privilege. Man, I want that on a shirt. I'm rambling now. You've got me rambling.
No. Let's unramble out of the rage pit. Food insecurity is one thing. We want people to be fed, period. Yeah. There's no reason, in any country, honestly, there's no reason in any country that people need to go hungry. But let's just, if you want to stay with American exceptionalism and think, we're the best country on earth, we're the richest country on earth, if that is true, there is no reason for anyone here to go hungry, period. So food insecurity, so preventing food insecurity is a big thing. But you also have to look at like what everything you have to look at all of the other things that are happening. I got a message on TikTok a few days ago. And because I made a TikTok, for the free fridge.
Okay.
I was having a weekend, and it was, you know how sometimes you do something that maybe it's productive, but it's not what you were supposed to be doing. This is all I did a few weekends ago, was I made a TikTok and some other social media, so that people could, it was a little bit about boosting the signal and spreading the word, but it's also just a functional, like, people can virtually look into the fridge, every now and then and see whether there is anything there worth getting, or, what the current status is. So anyway, I started connecting with a bunch of people because TikTok. And, I start getting messages, and I've been putting this out on my own personal Instagram for a while, so I've gotten messages like this, but you get messages like, I had to choose between rent and food this month, and it sucks big time. Okay. If you have to choose between rent and food, I'm sorry, Rosler, this is not getting you out of the rage pit, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. No, that sucks, of course, but what are you going to pick? Eventually, you're going to need food.
Yeah.
So if you have a way to get food, if we are filling in the huge gaps that do exist in our societal quote-unquote safety net, if we are filling in those gaps and helping people out, then we are helping to solve the houseless crisis, which is only getting worse in Portland and everywhere else. If this person knew about the free fridge in their area last month, then they would not have had to make that choice. And I'm assuming that they went hungry at least some of the time. But they stayed housed. And next month, because I hooked them up with the closest free fridge to them, which was not mine, but there are about 30 of them in Portland now. So this month, they won't have to make that choice. They will stay housed and hope, somebody else will stay on their meds, and somebody else will be able to fix their car, and they will keep their transportation, which probably means they'll keep their job. So whatever you think is ailing our society right now, whether it's increased crime or whatever you think that it is, a lot of it stems back to, can we keep people fed? Can we cover people's basic needs? Because they are not, in fact, being covered by some kind of invisible safety net or by everybody being able to make a living wage.
No, there's no magic program. My mother spent 15 years of her state career working for the Department of Public Welfare, and I currently do contract work with another state's welfare program. And hey, it's okay. It's okay. That's literally all I can say. And even in some cases, it ain't even okay. It's not there, but everybody's real quick to yell out with their megaphones and their MAGA hats. There you go. I broke the wall down. Fuck it. Here we go. Oh, God. I didn't want to do it, but I did. And, they're all saying, oh, they ain't working. They're getting everything handed to them. I want you to take your little calculator, because God knows you'll need it because you can't do long division. I want you to take that. I want you to figure out what they actually get. What they actually get. Because you were the same Ponce who is complaining about the people who stayed on unemployment after quitting wait staff jobs with restaurants who didn't appreciate them. Because believe me, the restaurants who did, they're already back to full staff. Hi, Turkey Hill Brewing. How you doing? So people who did it right, you're fine. The problem is with those who can't value the person, who are just, again, this goes back to what I said, bringing you on, people who just look at the dollar. How much dollar can I make? There's more to life than that. And this is it. So
I have to to say also, because Rosler, I'm sure I know for a fact this is not the first political thing that you've said on your show, and I would imagine that your audience leans pretty heavily one way. So everything that we've talked about so far is kind of like the humanitarian reasons to solving the food insecurity crisis.
Yeah.
But another thing that I think that you have to realize from a political standpoint, the countries in this world that have fallen to fascism or other kinds of authoritarianism, as they've come out of it, they've realized that one thing that they need to do is make sure that their social safety net is secure. Make sure that people don't have a reason to, adopt fascist ideals or to feel abandoned by the government or, whatever.
Yeah.
So if you are, more of a left leaner and concerned about some of the things that go on in this country right now, one of the things that you can do is invest in the security net in your communities, other than the humanitarian reasons to do it. Both are excellent reasons.
So a perfect segue. Couldn't have done it better. So how do we do that in our local community when at the bottom of that needs hierarchy is food? And, the job is at the top, right? But you got to have the job to make the money to buy the food. Got it.
Right.
Follow you 100%. So talking about you specifically and your work with Pdx Free Fridge, when did you first get the idea to be like, hey, this is something I want to do? This is important to me.
So like I said, I had made a lot more connections through protesting and, everything like that, and spending a night in jail, meeting people who were involved in the scene that were doing more and more mutual aid. And so I had heard of Pdx Free Fridge, and I want to give them all the shout outs here, because what I'm doing right now is not just something I dreamed up. It is something that had been going on for a long time. And I started, I had seen a call go out on, I want to say, a Facebook group of some sort about 6 or 7 months ago, that the host in my neighborhood was going to have to give up hosting. And so they were looking for a new host for the Cully neighborhood, which is my neighborhood.
Yeah, let me real quick throw a TO. So when we're talking about host and when we're talking about this, what Judy does right now, what Katz does, sorry, I've been calling her Katz this whole time. I'm like, Judy, who's Judy? Is she a new guest? So she legitimately has a fridge running an extension cord out your window, right?
Well, out my garage, yeah.
Out your garage. And this fridge then is stocked with donations for folks who need them. That's what Pdx Free Fridge operates around. It's a community refrigerator that anyone at any time can come and tap into. Let that settle in. Let that settle into your privileged ass life. And I'm looking at you. I don't know who you are that just identified with that statement, but I'm looking at you. Think about that. It's me. It's me. It's my kids. It's my family. It's, man.
I don't want anyone to feel bad about identifying with that. There are lots and lots of kinds of privilege. So this is, I just realized we got this far in and haven't really talked about it.
I know, we were like, wait a minute, what are they talking about? Oh my God. It's like Stranger Things, season 2.
So there are these, it's kind of a collective, a mutual aid collective. It's not like a legal entity, or, it's a group of people, volunteers. And there are people who donate fridges. If they're, getting a new appliance, they'll donate fridges. There are people who build little shelters for the fridges. There are people who organize pickups from county agencies and mostly grocery stores, other places that have food. They need to get rid of a certain amount of food like before it goes bad, but it might be when places throw out their food, or they have things that they just can't get rid of one way or another.
Do you mean like grocery stores that throw out 60% of produce because it's not pretty enough? Sure. Yeah.
Yes. I mean stuff like that. Yeah. So that is a huge source of food for us. So there are people who build those relationships. There are people who do lots of transportation. Like I said, there are about 30 free fridges in Portland right now, and they, go around and keep them stocked up as best as they can. And so there are, larger scale donations like that, and then there are smaller scale ones. There are a bunch of people on my street who will walk down, they're like, oh, I'm about to go out of town. I have an unopened gallon of milk. I'm not going to be able to drink this. They'll walk it down to the fridge.
Perfect.
And mine is a fridge. Like I said, I run an extension cord out from my garage. City of Portland loves it. It doesn't violate any codes or anything like that. It's fine. So I have a fridge and a pantry. There are lots of places that just have a pantry. There are places that have coat racks where people will donate coats and other clothes, microwaves, charging stations, plant donations, just whatever people can accommodate at different places, they have. And this is what I'm able to accommodate right now.
I love it. I love it. So this is, again, folks, if you're looking for Pdx Pi Delta Chi, if you're a Greek alum, or X, Free Fridge, there's a website, there's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's all over the place. You got to check it out. They do a great job on their site with regards to just the home site. So there's fridges and there's pantries and there's guidelines and there's how to start a fridge. So look, if you're trying to do this in your local and you're not from Oregon or anywhere near there, love the trail, love the game, have flashbacks sometimes, you can start a fridge. Dude, this visual right here is enough to get anybody started anywhere. There's no excuse. And honestly, I'm looking at this, I'm feeling activated. It's amazing. So I have to ask you, Katz, how long have you had this in place now?
So I've had it 7 months.
7 months, 7 months. So I got to imagine over those 7 months, you've seen or heard of a pretty impactful story of somebody finding what they needed. Is there any story like that you've encountered?
Oh yeah, I mean, people leave us notes sometime. Both of my kids are pretty interested in stocking the fridge and stuff, and one of them just by chance always encounters people, has conversations with people, and it always gets them really activated to keep doing it because they say, oh, we really appreciate this so much. I wouldn't be able to get milk for my kids or whatever. Just the nice notes that people leave. We love you. Thank you so much for doing this. You're an angel, whatever. But
that's awesome.
yeah, I mean, we get a lot of good feedback from the community. Most of our neighbors are really, really into it as well. We have some neighbors that are not so much. I'm sure you've heard the phrase "not in my backyard." Well, apparently it also applies to just a few doors down and across the street and whatever. But I mean, I hate to sound like this. No, I don't really hate it. But
no,
whatever.
you don't. No, you don't. Stop.
The thing is, they hate it, but it's my property, and I'm not, I'm not breaking any laws or anything like that. So I actually can, this is something that I can do. It's something that a lot of people can do. And so in Portland, it's called Pdx Free Fridge. There are different efforts in different towns. If you Google your town and free fridge or community fridge, you are going to see some kind of effort probably. There might be things that are a little bit different, like free gardens. There are lots of different spins on this that different communities have come up with to either, fill a particular need that they've identified or just to something, maybe there's something that's more, in the culture of that community.
Sure.
And so you were talking about starting one. Yes, I love for people to get involved. I also want to really emphasize that this is a village. It takes a village. I have been kind of just a host for 7 months. I haven't really done a ton with the fridge. I've done a few transportation runs. I generally keep it maintained. I actually don't keep it all maintained all that well. I'd like to beautify it a little bit more, but I'm one of those people who's not super great at getting things done. And so I've been mostly just a host for a while. I'm doing more and more, but with I think that it's something that's important for everybody to really think about. What is sustainable for me?
Yeah.
Is it sustainable for me to actually start my own organization? Or is it more sustainable for me to join, with a few friends or an existing organization and simply be a host? Or is it sustainable for me to devote one evening a week to doing a transportation run for picking up food and distributing to a couple of fridges? What is sustainable? And that doesn't mean that it's something that you have to commit to, until the end of time.
Yeah.
It just means not biting off more than you can chew, since we're on a food podcast.
I see what you did there. That was good.
Not flaming out really, really quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the thing about mutual aid. You have to learn to do it in a sustainable way. You have to learn to rest sometimes.
Yep.
You have to learn to say, actually, the best thing for everybody is if I don't take that on, because I know that I can't handle it.
Yep.
And so, like on a long-term basis. So I don't want to discourage anybody. I don't want to say, all of this stuff is really, really hard. I just want everybody to think really hard about the balance that they are able to take on.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing. Knowing your own limits, like being able to see your own gas tank as it depletes is important. And people view that, unfortunately, we're all engineered to believe we have to be superheroes in our own rights. And we don't. Like, it's okay to say, I can only do this much. Get a squad together. Get somebody together.
Just all about the squad.
Yeah. All about the squad. So, I mean, that's all the positive side. And great that, all these stories are coming in, these notes are coming in. That's fantastic. You got your people up in the street, not in my backyard. There's got to be an interaction that's been the worst to date. What does that look like?
Okay, so right when I first got it, like right when it was dropped off, one of my neighbors was very, very much against it. Several of my neighbors were very much against it. And it actually wasn't something that actually the Pdx Free Fridge website has some guidelines. They recommend that people talk to their neighbors and get some community support around it. I didn't actually even see their website before I started, because that just wasn't how it came onto my radar. But I knew that it was something that I wanted to do. I knew that it was something I had the right to do on my property. And I said, yes, I wanted to do this.
Sure.
And so a couple of my neighbors got very upset about it. They tried to, say that they hadn't been consulted and used, the website as some kind of justification that it should be taken down. They wrote a lot of nasty emails to me and to the Pdx Free Fridge people over the course of about a week. They threatened to call the cops. And at that point, the Pdx Free Fridge social media team said, okay, the good thing to do is to alert the community that might be starting to come to the fridge, that this has been a threat. And so they actually put out social media about that, and we put up signs on the fridge as well, just to alert people that there were some upset neighbors. They had threatened to call the cops, because we know, like, this is definitely the case in Portland. It's really the case anywhere, that cops are a threat to Black and brown and indigenous people. They are a threat to houseless people. They are a threat to poorer people, regardless of whether those people are doing anything wrong or not. So the fact that there had been a threat to call the cops, we alerted, the community about that until they backed down. And so there were there was about a week when I was dealing with a lot of nasty emails, and I was kind of like, sorry you're upset. It was what can I really do? But at this point, all of that has actually leveled off. I actually had no idea that that anybody was still, trying to do anything about it. At one point they threatened to sue me. I was like, you're a daisy if you do, whatever. And I had no idea that anybody was still upset about it, but I did get a visit from the city recently that, basically they came by to say, we're still getting calls about this and that, so, just make sure everything is neat. In one case, somebody had left a box of produce out there for a day. I didn't even realize it was still there. So they're like, just make sure everything is neat, make sure everything stays to code. We are not doing anything about this. You're not breaking any codes. We know that there are, almost 3 dozen of these around the city. We love them. It's for such a great purpose. We don't see why people would have a problem with it.
Nice.
So Portland has actually been exceptionally cool about it.
That's really cool.
But yeah. And I think that most places will be, I think with any place, it's like you have to follow the city codes of wherever you are. But there are ways to help people regardless.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the sustainability of your project.
No, it makes total sense. And so, fast forward for me. What is Katz's efforts? What does Pdx Free Fridge efforts look like 5 years from now?
I definitely cannot speak on behalf of Pdx Free Fridge.
Fair enough.
But I think that this will still be necessary in 5 years. And if it is, I'll still be here. That's kind of all that I really know. I'm going to keep flowing where I'm needed. And, like I said, I've been kind of just a host for about 7 months. I just started doing some more social media. I'm going to try to start doing a routine of some basic meal prep every now and then so that I can contribute a little bit more and add in ways that are sustainable for me and my family. But I don't really know. A lot of that will be about, what is the socio-political situation at that point? What's the need?
Right. For sure, man. And I know for a fact, knowing you like I do, that you'll be there for it. You're not going anywhere. You're in that pocket. You're not moving anywhere left, right. You're going to stay dead in the center and just face it head on. Because honestly, that's what I love about you.
Not in the center of everything, but
No, no, fair. I mean, dead center, taking, you're not trying to dodge the tackle. You're taking it head on. So
I'm not. I think that definitely there are, coming back to the neighbor thing, there definitely are people who have been scared out of being hosts or simply, have chosen not to be because of, different types of attacks. And I think that, my neighbors definitely thought that I would be as well, but they don't know me. And I just am not, I was not about to back down for, something like that. And I have to share one more thing that I found the most ironic about it. A neighbor actually had told me at one point that they would get the fridge removed by any means necessary. And I was like, wow.
Isn't that funny that they used that quote of all quotes you could use?
It sure is. To co-opt words. To say that they're going to try to get rid of something that helps the most vulnerable communities. I was like, wow, if I wasn't committed to staying, before, I sure am now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, no matter what happens, I'm here. I got your 6. So, for whatever that's worth, and a podcast episode to boot, we stand alongside of you. We stand behind you, and I'm hoping that some folks listen to this and go, "Hey, I could do that, or I could do that with my squad." Make sure it's a squad goal. Squad goal is good. Squad goal is real good. Yeah. So, Katz, I'm gonna lighten the mood. I'm gonna actually do the standard afters outro that I typically do with all other guests because we've spent a lot of time in the Ragey McRagerson muck pit. It's time to hose each other off. In a completely ambiguous sense. That really sounded weird when I said it, and I'm like, oh god, she's gonna give me shit once we stop the mic. Yeah, of course she is. So without further ado, let's imagine you and I cooking together, wherever it is. You get to pick the music. You get to be on DJ duty. What are we listening to?
Oh gosh, I think that both of us being of a certain age, I would want to go to some classic hard rock or metal.
Yeah.
And just headbang the night away.
Hell yeah! Oh, I'm in for it. I'm in for it 100%. Next question: hypothetical situation. We are going to airdrop you on a deserted island, and you can only bring 3 foods or food type items with you. They can be, condiments, beverages, equipment, inexhaustible supply by the power of imagination, but only 3 foods or food type items on a deserted island. What would they be and why?
Okay, I would absolutely go for my mom's grilled pork chops.
Nice.
Pork steaks. Recently I've learned that that's actually the proper name for that kind of meat.
Exactly.
So just in case there was any confusion about me saying that my mom's cooking was basic, her pork steaks are absolutely my favorite thing on the planet. And I would go for that. And my own, like sushi rice out of the rice cooker, perfect every time. And Diet Dr. Pepper, because I am a Texan and I will drink it to the day I die.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You and goddamn Bozarth with the Diet Mountain Dew. I'm like, what the hell?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the diet caffeinated beverage. I get it. Last Supper time. Melanie Denea did this wonderful coffee table book, My Last Supper, and then followed it up with the next course, 50 and 50, world famous chefs. All ask the same thing. Inspiration for the show, as I give her credence for every episode, kind of giving me the format for the show. But the question is this. You're getting your ticket punched tomorrow. What are you eating? What are you drinking tonight? Who's there? What's playing musically? Go. Paint the scene.
Wait a minute. Am I supposed to talk at all about what I'm eating, though?
Oh, yeah. What are you eating? What are you drinking? Who's there? What are you listening to?
Okay, this is where I'm really going to show that I'm not a chef. Anyway, I'm like, how is that even different from the other question about the desert island? Like, I probably would have, pretty close to the same thing.
So mom's grilled pork steaks. Got it.
Right. Diet Dr. Pepper. That's, I don't know. I'd probably, if it were really a last meal, I would have a lot more booze than that. You know that, right? I'm pretty sure we all know that.
That's fair enough.
But what I really would want to focus on is like, okay, what else? All friends and family.
There you go. There you go.
I think that's a no-brainer for me.
Can I cook it?
I would love for you to do that.
Dude, I'm in.
My mom has to make sure that everything is up to standard. But
I got it. We'll talk. It's cool. Yeah, right? We're good. We're cool.
And let's see. I would want the ambiance and the music and everything managed by the crew that puts on Pickathon, the music festival that I go to out here and help with every year. So think Avett Brothers, Shelby Graves, Shovels and Rope, Mandolin Orange.
Love it.
That kind of scene.
Love it. And finally, the last question, the simplest question and the most complex, all at the same time. What is food to Judy Katz in one word?
Life.
Love it. With no hesitation, unblinking, she answers the hardest question in the interview.
I mean, I think that's what we've been talking about today.
That is.
And, I could say love because I love food. I'm not a chef, but I've always loved food. But I think we're talking about something more basic today, and so that's appropriate.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Katz... This feels so unceremonious because normally I'm like, oh my god, no, love John Top Chef, love John Chopped, and it's like, yeah, love Jet Devlern, asshole. Yeah. Like we can rib each other back and forth, but
one day again, I will see you at Devlern.
One day again, and again, pulling that fourth wall back and just like cutting all the bullshit out of the equation. I admire you beyond human comprehension for what you do, and you should know that. So thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
It's a good thing we're ending because I told you I'm not staying for much of that. But thank you. I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate your support, your unwavering support in all of these things.
Always. You got no question. You get no waiver with me. No waiver, people. Let's look down the plug list real quick. Pdx Free Fridge, again, on Insta, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Dasher and we're getting close to Christmas, folks. So there we go. There's the first Christmas reference, goddammit. But Pdx Free Fridge. Be sure to check them out. They're doing incredible work. And check out their how to start it in your area if you're questioning it. Like, do it. Do it, please. Katz, again, I can't thank you enough. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you as well. And everyone out there listening, of course, Sean's too classy to say this, but there are Cash App and Venmo links if you want to just send some appreciation Pdx Free Fridge's way. If you are in any way inspired to do something to help out, then all the good to you, all the good luck, and all the love.
There it is. All the good luck, all the love. Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 179 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me this evening, the illustrious, only illustrious guests here, Judy Katz from DevLearn fame, if we will, Pdx Free Fridge. Again, check out the website, check out all their social presence. They're all over the place. And please, 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 if you're even questioning it, pick it up, start something today. Our producer, as always, has been the lovely, voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out all his libertarian and politico happenings in the 18431. The next episode, number 180, we are legitimately going to be sitting down with a living legend in Bloomsburg. You will not want to miss this one. Stay tuned.
Retour aux sources pour se régénérer. Retour aux sources, avance vers le passé. Retour aux sources, batterie rechargée. Retour aux sources, enfin tout recommencer.
Are you passing through central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.